have become an issue. And when you have turnovers, you don't have to face the half-court defense of the Buckeyes. That's one of the best in all of college basketball.
Uncharacteristic issue for All-America candidate Aaron Kraft, their star guard, everything a coach wants in a leader on the floor. Minnesota, of course, the Hollands, Dre and Austin. DeAndre Matthew, the 5'9" point guard, and the 6'11" big man is Elliot Eliason. 132nd meeting between these Big Ten rivals, and Ohio State has won 6 straight as we are underway here in Minneapolis.
Well, the pacing of this game so key. If it's up and down, it certainly does favor Minnesota. If it becomes a little bit more of a grinder game in the half-court set, that's where Ohio State can flourish.
Get a whistle here as Dre Hollins was coming to the top of the arc against Kraft. So he picks up an early one, does Kraft.
Minnesota does an excellent job spacing and then coming off of screens to find open looks, in particular for Dre Hollins and Austin Hollins.
Dre Hollins averaging 16.3 points per game, the offensive leader of this Gophers team.
He was out here over 2 hours before the tip of the game getting shots up. This is a significant game for Minnesota. They showed well at Michigan State, didn't play their best basketball game, but still showed well. Now they need to try to finish off one against a ranked opponent. Great opportunity on their home floor tonight against Ohio State.
And a travel that time as Otto Oshinix took steps.
And he's got to get the ball and just reverse it right away into the offense for Minnesota. Don't try to break him down and go one-on-one. Not the strengths of Oshinix's game.
Shannon Scott and Kraft making up that backcourt for Ohio State.
The zone defense has given Ohio State some issues recently.
Here's Kraft now penetrating and gets it over to Scott. And the rebound by Eliason. And coming right through the lane, charging hard, was DeAndre Matthew.
Matthew is so aggressive. When he finds a lane or a seam, he is going to attack it quickly. He loves to gather and get his base underneath him. He's a 2-foot jumper, and because of that, he can withstand contact. A hard fall there, but boy, has he played well. And of course, in the waning moments of that game at Michigan State, he was the one that hit the shot to force overtime.
Shannon Scott picked up the foul.
Matthew started his career at Morehead State and then has grown now and matured to where he's found success here. And he not only is finding success here, but he's 4th in the conference in assists per game and steals per game. An immediate impact player for Coach Richard Pitino.
He's a JUCO All-America at Central Arizona. So well-traveled to now find success here in the Big Ten. And here's that pressure that you detailed, Sean.
There's twofold for this pressure. One is it forces you to be strong with the ball quickly. The second one is it takes time off the shot clock.
That's a good sign. Well, Quentin Ross hitting early here. Back up top to Matthew. Inside to Eliason. As he's able to score over Amir Williams.
Well, if they can get some production from the paint, I think that really takes some of the pressure off the guards for Minnesota. So much of their offense is predicated upon the outside shooting.
High post now, and a nice feed to Williams, and he was denied, but picking up the pieces that time was Lenzel Smith.
In the zone, you've got to be very active. You have to have your head on a swivel, and that time it was Williams behind the back line of the defense. And although he didn't score, the defense had to rotate over, and it opened up a lane for the offensive putback.
Oceanics off the mark. Rebound Thompson. And that was Ross working against Hollins and getting the whistle there.
Well, you watch attacking zone. You get the ball into the high post area. That's where it all starts. Smith drives, forces Eliason to pick up from the back end, and then is able to clean it up and put it back in. And that's just great awareness. And you can break down a zone defense. That soft spot everybody always talks about, right at the high post area where it says big in the middle of your screen in the painted area. You get the ball there, the defense has to react.
So much of the offense can come off that. Thompson now 15-footer, back rims it. Rebound Eliason, and here come the Gophers. Matthew wasting no time. Trey Hollins, and he draws the foul that time. As that is on Ross, his first.
Well, one thing about Minnesota is they can space you out. And when they space you out defensively, it extends you further out on the floor, and when they attack off the bounce, you can pick up fouls. It's so quick.
You get the call against Eliason there as he retrieved the ball.
Well, empty possession. They've had two of them so far where they haven't even got a shot attempt up. Ohio State can be very frustrating to play in the half court. We haven't seen any transition looks yet for Minnesota.
Kraft gets it ahead to Ross. And Ross through the paint. And it gets tapped in. When you was Williams cleaning it up, and a three-point lead for the Buckeyes.
Second time, though, they have attacked the paint. One from the high post, one from the wing. They've done it quickly. And it gives opportunities for offensive rebounds, and they've been very active, Ohio State has.
Austin Hollins working against Thompson. Back to Matthew, turns the corner. Now gives way to Trey Hollins, tapped away. Lenzel Smith on the run, and the finger roll front rims. Here's Matthew now driving. And it'll stay with the Gophers.
Well, that was a clear example on that possession where Minnesota should have been able to finish in transition. It was a 3-on-2, maybe even a 4-on-2 if you count the trail.
It's game time. Glad you're with us for the Thursday night showcase presented by Reese's Peanut Butter Cups. Joe Tessitore, Sean Farnham with you as Ohio State has an early 7-4 lead over Minnesota.
Well, a couple of missed opportunities early in this game for Minnesota. They had a 4-on-2 break. They get the ball out of bounds underneath and immediately turn it over to Ohio State. And I'm really impressed with the Buckeyes. They're not settling in the half-court set against this zone. They are attacking it. They are getting the ball into the paint, forcing the back line of the defense to have to step. And 2 offensive rebounds and putbacks already early in this game for the Buckeyes.
Minnesota with 4 turnovers early here. 3-point attempt off the front rim by Smith.
Well, he has struggled from the outside and one for his last 15 from behind the arc.
How about the little guy, DeAndre Matthew, the 5'9" guard. He's averaging 11.4 a game. Junior college All-America from Central Arizona, who's made an impact here with the Gophers. Crowd reacting to that whistle as Malik Smith picks up his first.
Malik Smith, one of the other transfer players that have come in, of course came from Florida International, knows the system for Coach Richard Pitino, and has been a big part in the early stages of this season, especially in Big Ten play. He has elevated his game.
Played for Coach Pitino last year and got the NCAA waiver that made him eligible to play right away for the Gophers. Here's Kraft now. And King Minnesota being aggressive there. Gets the whistle. There's Thad Matta, 45 years old. His teams has always had 20-win seasons, 13 overall. And Richard Pitino, first year at Minnesota. You spent a lot of time talking to him about how he identifies his team and what he brings to this league. Unique style that's been successful elsewhere.
Well, of course, you look at his lineage of where he's been as a coach, and it's not just his time that he spent with his father, but also his time that he spent with Billy Donovan down in Florida. They like to get up and down the floor. They like to run. They like to press. They like to trap. They like to put you in situations where you are uncomfortable, and Minnesota has had some success with that already this year.
Not exactly conforming to the rest of the conference.
Well, I think it's important you keep your identity as a head coach. You start to build your system and build your program the way that you want, and Coach Richard Pitino is doing that here at Minnesota.
Joey King picks up his dribble. Andre Hollins will reset things. There's Eliason down in the post, and a duck under is going to get steps to go along with it.
Eliason did not like that call, neither did Richard Pitino. Look at a kid like Eliason, averages 6.5 points per game. This is a game, though, that they feel like they can get the ball down low, maybe even a little bit more. When Amir Williams goes to the bench like he is right now, Eliason's got to be able to post up and finish in the paint.
9 possessions for Minnesota, 5 turnovers. That was denied as McDowell went up. Here's Thompson now. And Smith, 18-footer, won't go that time as Dre Hollins now pushes the other way.
Defensive transition has been extremely crisp early in this game for Ohio State.
Good hands by Aaron Kraft as McNeil tried to throw that pass baseline over to Hollins.
Pacing so key in this game. Minnesota has to take advantage when they have numbers. Score on your primary break or your secondary break. If the defense is back a little bit, get a quick ball reversal. See if you can get them sprinting and maybe being out of position ever so slightly to attack them.
King tried to get it over to Walker, and he drew the foul. He'll be charged against Lenzel Smith. His first.
5 team fouls already for Ohio State. And getting to the free throw line, not a bad thing for Minnesota. They shoot 76% as a team. Boy, are they having trouble getting the ball inbounds underneath.
Quick hands that time by Shannon Scott, and it forces yet another turnover.
A very sloppy start for Minnesota. Way too many turnovers, not being sure with the basketball, and you've got to be strong, especially against the 2 guards of Ohio State. We talk about Aaron Kraft as a great defensive player. Mr. Scott's not that far behind him. Shannon Scott is an elite level on-ball defensive player.
He'll be the point guard next year when Kraft moves on. As Mark Loving can't connect. And fighting for the ball that time, and coming into the hands of Dre Hollins. Back rim, Joey King. And a loose ball goes into the hands of Sam Thompson.
Should be a second chance opportunity, and instead it's yet another turnover for Minnesota.
Here's Loving. That was almost stripped away. We'll stay with the Buckeyes. Ohio State has missed their last 7 field goal attempts.
The crazy thing is you talk about missing your last 7 field goal attempts. They still lead by 1, and mainly because of the turnovers that Minnesota has had at the opposite end of the floor.
Just 3 of 14 shooting for the Buckeyes here. Kraft now penetrates, and he will head to the line.
Well, Aaron Kraft in the first 2 games of conference play was outstanding. 14 assists, 0 turnovers in those first 2 games. In the last 2 games, 12 assists, 10 turnovers. And we talked to Thad Matta about those 10 turnovers in particular in the last 2 games. And he was quick to point out, yes, Aaron has made some mistakes, but it's also part of their system too. When Aaron drives and looks to attack, Aaron expects guys to be in certain spots out on the floor, and in particular against Iowa, guys weren't where they were supposed to be, and that caused some of the turnovers that he had in that game.
Leaves his feet to pass. Options aren't available. You get yourself into a jam. 3-point lead for Ohio State. Dre Hollins awkwardly tried to get over to Matthews, stepped on the line. That is 8 turnovers now for Minnesota, trailing by 3.
ESPN's exclusive presentation.
0 turnovers for Ohio State. They have 14 shot attempts, but they've only made 3 shots. They really should have pulled away in this game a little bit, considering the fact that Minnesota has 8 turnovers in the first 9 minutes of play.
8 turnovers early on.
Really, the first 8 minutes.
6 points on the board here.
The positive for Minnesota is that with those 8 turnovers, they've only given up 4 points off of those 8 turnovers.
Thompson gave a nice feed to Williams, but he couldn't finish. Other end, Matthew. DeAndre Matthew has 6 of the 8 they've scored.
And all of them going towards the rim. He is ultra aggressive. When the ball's in his hands, he sees that lane, he finds it.
As Michigan State found out in the final seconds last weekend to force overtime. He was aggressive as off the knee and going the other way. Hollins now. And Minnesota takes the lead.
First turnover of the night for Ohio State.
And Thompson has that explosive ability to jump high. He'll get himself to the line.
Well, out of the timeout, you have to be aggressive. You have to start to turn your motor up. Minnesota looks at Matthew, able to do that. He gets through the lane like a slippery little fish, finds a hole and attacks. Meanwhile, off the turnover, once again gives you a great opportunity to finish at the rim before the defense is set up for Ohio State.
Thompson connects on the first. Ohio State hasn't made a field goal since 16-13 on the clock.
Again, you cannot understate the importance of the percentage of possessions in which Minnesota is able to create steals. They are 25th in the country and number 1 in the Big Ten. They force turnovers against their opponents. At 12% of their possessions, they force steals.
8.2 steals per game to lead the Big Ten.
Look at the defense. Look at Ohio State's defense. Just forcing Minnesota in the wrong direction.
Shot clock down to 5 here. As Eliason came up with it, but he took steps. He was trying to gather the ball, and he traveled.
9 turnovers now for Minnesota. And again, the defense is what creates this for Ohio State. It speeds you up to a point where you're uncomfortable. Matthew loses it, and the big fella's probably the last guy you want in the lane trying to gather a ball at his ankles.
Here's Q Ross as he lost his balance coming through the lane. And a whistle goes against Minnesota. That was Dre Hollins. And that's 2 on Andre Hollins.
Well, it has been a sloppy start, to say the least, for Minnesota in this game, yet still only trailing by 1. Buckeyes unable to create space here in the early stages of this game.
Thompson, nice move around Eliason. He was going straight at him and then went to the left hand and got past him.
And Tess, that was completely created after you go for the steal on a long inbounds pass. You take yourself out of the play. Now it's a numbers situation, 5-on-4, advantage Buckeyes. They attacked.
Ends a drought of over 6 minutes without a field goal made for Ohio State, and the margin is back to 3. There's a long attempt that time that Malik Smith couldn't connect on. Hugh Ross not bashful at all, is he? Daquan McNeil's number 5, freshman from Baltimore. He's been getting a little more playing time as he challenged trying to get to the tin.
Well, nice job attacking for Minnesota. It was a great job attacking just moments ago for Ohio State. Watch this. The defense is going to try to steal this inbounds pass as it gets thrown. And you take yourself, freeze it right there. You are now -1. And because of that, as we roll it out, you're playing from behind. And if you're playing behind on one of the exceptional leapers in the game, you're going to lose. And that's exactly what happened on that possession for Minnesota.
Oceanich checks back in.
What I love about this young man, he played in the New England Prep League, and that is some of the toughest basketball you can find at the prep school level. And innately, players come out of that league, and they can easily find their way onto the floor their freshman year. Some great coaches and a lot of great talent.
Of course, Richard Pitino knows a little something about New England basketball. As that'll go against Malik Smith. Reminds you that ESPN's coverage of college basketball continues Saturday. A pair of great conference games. How about Pitt and Syracuse going at it at 4 o'clock? And then Michigan, Wisconsin. Both games on ESPN. Be interesting to see how Wisconsin reacts. There's a second on Malik Smith moments ago.
And Michigan continues to improve. Derek Walton Jr. starting to find his flow as a freshman at the point guard position for the Wolverines.
Denzel Smith off the easy handoff, tried to put it down and came up empty. Right idea, wrong execution of a finish. And a little push from Ross won't go, but then cleaning it up as Ohio State now leads by 3 again. Under 8 minutes here in the first.
That's too many offensive rebounds right now for Ohio State. They've been able to get on the glass and have hurt them. 6 total offensive rebounds.
We got ourselves a tie game. Transfer Malik Smith. Coach Pitino saying we don't know what we would be without him this year. And that was nice through the lane by Ross. Hollins trying to keep the handle. And now Matthew. Here's Hollins. And Smith comes down with it.
Hollins' last 4 games, 21 3-point attempts, has made only 4 of them. He's a much better shooter than he's shown.
There's Eliason with the defensive rebound. Matthews sets up Smith, and he puts it down. So he's finding his groove here. Tied at 17.
That's what I loved about that one is he turned down the open three and took the higher percentage shot by stepping in.
Here's Smith through the lane. And he draws the foul. All tied up here at Williams Arena, the Barn.
Show is at Wichita State, and if you haven't had a chance to see Fred VanVleet, he's one of the best point guards in all of college basketball. He is a top 10 caliber point guard.
Lenzel Smith at the line for Ohio State.
Well, he really needs to get going too, Lenzel Smith does. Not just attacking the rim, of course he's done a decent job already not settling for the three-point shot, but as conference play began, he was 4th in this conference in three-point field goal percentage. Since that point in time, he was 1 of 15 heading into this game.
I thought you made an interesting statement earlier today as Eliason finishes off the feed that time. Good look. About Smith saying, you know, sometimes you're trying to break out of a slump. It can be easier to do on the road in a setting like this.
Well, and it's because the opportunity is you realize it's just you, your teammates, and your coaching staff against everybody else. When you're at home, you might put a little bit more pressure on yourself. Friends, family will be there. In the home crowd, usually if you're struggling, they'll let you know about it. And it's such a key cog offensively to take some pressure off of Quentin Ross.
Shot clock down to 6 here as they reset with Aaron Craft. Here's Thompson. How about that? Sam Thompson with the shot clock counting down. That's 7 now for Thompson.
That one was from deep.
Oh.
You know, sometimes those situations where you don't have to think about it because you know you've got to get it up there. You're not worried about your percentages or how you might be struggling from the outside.
Eliason, 17-footer.
Nothing struggling about his game here in the first half. He came into this one averaging just about 6.5. He's got 6 already.
He's gained a lot of confidence this year and it's showing up one of the most improved players in the Big Ten. Ross tried to get over to the right and took that little half a jab that traveled. Second turnover for Ohio State.
Still tied, Tess, and a big part of that, obviously, the length of the three-point shot, the shot clock down to 1 on the catch. You just got to let it go. You can't think about it. And then the opposite end, Eliason at the free throw line. Defense collapses as you dribble penetrate, creates enough space to hit that soft jump shot.
Good look that time by Hollins as Austin Hollins finds Oceanix. And that time Eliason denying Ross. Here's Smith.
Trying to do too much that time. Anytime you have to turn your back to the basket and you try to flip it up over the top of your head, not a good idea.
Offensive. Kraft got caught up in the trees.
It's usually Aaron Craft making the great defensive play. But life at the Barn might be starting a little bit at the defensive end of the floor. They call it a charge. It goes the other way. It's been a good contest so far here in Minnesota.
Here at the Barn, Minnesota able to overcome 9 turnovers with a 2-point lead. Some balanced scoring surging here in recent minutes. Makes Goldie happy.
We had an opportunity to look at that charge a couple more times during the timeout. I'm not sold that that was a charge. I think that the defense was still shifting as Aaron Craft had already gathered himself and started moving towards the basket.
So Aaron Craft for Ohio State and Dre Hollins for Minnesota, both on the bench with 2 fouls each. Smith has been feeling it as they work it inside to Eliason. As Matthew with the spin, and he can't get it to drop, but then the rebound by Eliason and the foul. Just working hard against the glass. Elliot Eliason.
Right now, he just doesn't care. He's just going out and playing out on the floor, puts himself in the right position. He's one of the better offensive rebounders in the entire Big Ten, and he is pumped.
Been such a consistent contributor lately. At a game-high 11 rebounds, 4 blocks, 7 points at Michigan State.
Well, he's averaging 3 offensive rebounds a game.
And how about Oceanic? Just following that ball and putting it right in, and it's a 6-point lead. Largest of the game for Minnesota. Little for Sam Thompson can solve some problems.
Well, that was
Coach Pitino wants a timeout.
A designed play and poor awareness on the weak side of the zone.
Since Saturday at 6 on ESPN. Also available on Watch ESPN. It should be a good one. Four-point lead for the Gophers. Oceanics, 3-point attempt. Back rim net. And the rebound goes to Williams.
I think you turn that shot down and you find a better look. Momentum is on your side.
There's Ross.
Well, now it's been a 4-0 run quickly by Ohio State after that 6-point lead.
Ross has 9. Matthew from the stripe. DeAndre Matthew. And he has 8 points here in this first half.
That's perfect execution, partner. You dump the ball off to the big man. A little handoff, picks the defense, gives you a wide open jump shot. A perfect play.
5'9" JUCO transfer. He's so quick and elusive and showing his shot there as well. Now Smith. And he can't get it to go. Another rebound for Eliason. McNeil lost the handle. Smith puts it down at the other end.
Struggling from the outside, a little frustration. You could see him kind of shake his head on the way back even after the dunk. You know, he expects himself to break out of this slump from the outside, and certainly so does most of the Ohio State Buckeyes fans.
Shot clock at 10. Matthew picked up the dribble. Now Oceanics for 3. That was well off the mark. And now Ohio State with a chance to tie here. Could be the final possession of this first half. So they were slow start to this game with a lot of turnovers, but the last 7 minutes have been entertaining. And Thad Matta is going to talk it over.
Well, part of the reason why a slow start is because of some sloppy play, but let's take a look at tonight's Reese's perfect play. It's all about execution and understanding where you are on the floor and how you can help your teammate get open. And what we're going to see is, the ball's going to get dumped down right here. Take your man down, come off, little handoff action, and it's going to be a wide open jump shot because of a great pick play by Eliason. He's been good as far as scoring the basketball. Now he's setting up his teammates, making life easy. That's, my friend, the Reese's perfect play.
DeAndre Matthews meant a lot to Richard Pitino in his first year here at Minnesota. We talked about the course that he took to arrive at this point as a starting guard in the Big Ten. Walked on at Morehead State, played junior college at Central Arizona, blossomed there, and then has fit in nicely to what Pitino's trying to do here.
How about the fact he couldn't earn a scholarship
at
Morehead State, and right now in the Big Ten Conference, one of the best conferences, if not the best conference in college basketball. He's 4th in assists and 4th in steals per game, and his offensive numbers are starting to turn up.
Final seconds here of the first half. Good shot fake. Ross. That was a nice move that time by LaQuinton Ross. So Q ties it up at 29.
Well, a little bit of a slow start, but a strong finish. Ohio State was down by 6. They've answered the call, and we haven't settled anything yet here in the
Buckeyes
first half.
trying to bounce back after the 2 straight losses. Tied up at 29. Let's send it to the studio for the Land Rover halftime report. Take it away.
The field goal percentage is great. 57% for Minnesota in the first half. The turnovers have been a big problem for them, as well as second chance points. 6 second chance point opportunity for Ohio State, able to convert.
You see Ross with the 11 points, had a big one before halftime. Eliason is 3rd in the Big Ten in rebounding, and he has been a force in the interior tonight for Minnesota. Big games for both teams. Ohio State trying to bounce back after their only 2 losses of the season. They forced overtime against Michigan State, but fell there and then lost at home to a very talented Iowa team. And Minnesota is in a 4-game stretch that'll really challenge them in Big Ten play. They had the overtime loss to Michigan State, Ohio State tonight, then they're at Iowa and against Wisconsin.
Eliason immediately with his 7th rebound of the game, working towards his 6th double-double of the season. An important game. You mentioned this difficult stretch for Minnesota. And when you're looking to build your program, gain momentum, gain confidence in this conference, you need to take advantage on your home court against a ranked opponent, and that's what Minnesota's trying to do.
Dre Hollins opens up the second half in style.
And they're going to look at that to determine whether or not it was a 2 or a 3. The signal was given to the scorer's table. So at the next media timeout, they will go back and determine whether or not that was a 2 or a 3.
Hollins is coming off a 24-point effort against Michigan State. Shannon Scott. He will head to the line.
In the last possession, Hollins working with Aaron Kraft guarding him. And a little pick up top. And then he has to step over the top of the screen. The defense guarding the screener, slow to step out. That's what created the space for Hollins to knock it down.
First on Eliason.
And again, a reminder, they awarded him the 3. They will look at it again to determine whether or not his foot was on the line. I think it's going to stand as a 3.
And see, the barnyard is the view that Scott is attempting that free throw right into.
A little tie-up. After the free throw was made, the officials talking to both players.
And pressure now is Austin gets it over to Dre Hollins. Not much offense out of the Hollins backcourt in that first half.
Maybe a sign of that already changing here in the second, though.
Nope. Hit the long ball early on. And quick hands that time by Scott to disrupt Matthew. And here's Dre again. And the air ball right into the hands of Eliason, who goes with the reverse. And his big night continues.
He just works hard to put himself in the right position. A lot of times rebounding just comes down to effort. You know, put yourself in the right position, know your teammates, read where the ball is going, and Eliason's done a nice job of that tonight.
Good passing to the inside, Ross. And he gets it to drop in.
That is where the Buckeyes have had their most success against the zone, is right there in the interior of the paint. where the conference logo is painted. You get the ball in there, it breaks down the zone completely.
Hughes got himself 13 points. Eliason, mid-range jumper won't fall. Ross gets the rebound.
That's his first miss of the game.
Now, good hands that time by Dre Hollins, but he took steps coming down.
That's like a linebacker spying on the quarterback, trying to drop back into coverage after showing an attack, and gets both hands up and tries to aggressively make the play. The difference in football, you come down with it on your back, it's still an interception. In basketball, it's a turnover.
Although the last Ohio State game I called in the Orange Bowl, some Buckeyes fans would question how that game ended with a similar interception or so-called interception by a Clemson linebacker. Good hands that time right into DeAndre Matthew. Pass up ahead and then underneath to Otto Oshenix.
Steals leading to points. It's what Minnesota does best at the defensive end.
And here they go again. Dre Hollins. And that was denied by Scott. Good defensive effort. And now numbers for the Buckeyes. But they turn the ball over. Matthew behind the back. Oshenix can't get it to go on the roll through the lane. Fast pace being set here. Scott on the other end. Offensive, they say.
That is 4 possessions in a row that have ended in a turnover for Ohio State. 3 of them have been steals. This one determined to be an offensive foul. We'll take a look at it as you drive in. What happened was the extension of the arm by Scott. Had he not extended his arm out just like that, it would have been a foul on Matthew.
No doubt about it. It's that left hand, and you saw that forearm make contact right into the chest with DeAndre Matthew.
There was no need. He was moving. It was not going to be a charge. It was clearly going to go against him. And Matthew's shaking up a little bit here.
You see Matthew wincing a little bit as he comes off the court.
The partner, how about the fact 4 consecutive possessions where Ohio State has turned the ball over, 3 of them being steals.
Wasted opportunities in what has become a momentum game. And Oshenix is going to use a timeout. Good energy in the barn tonight. Home team with a 4-point lead.
Fan of the game. Gopher 5 fan of the game will win a year's supply of Gopher 5 lottery tickets and a Gopher 5 lottery ticket for everyone 18 and older in their section. Congratulations to the fan in section 104, row 22, seat 3. You are tonight's Gopher 5 fan of the game. You won a year's supply of Gopher 5 lottery tickets and a lottery ticket for everyone in section 104. Get up and groove with Goldie, presented by Blue Cross Blue Shield.
This time.
With Minnesota and Ohio State on the ice tomorrow night. We know what we're getting on the hardwood. Good action, great energy here indoors at the barn. The raised floor, one of the most unique venues in all college basketball.
And boy, Minnesota has had a difficult time getting the ball inbounds. And that time, full court pressure being applied for Ohio State. But even the out of bounds underneath opportunities, they have not been able to execute.
Fighting for that rebound that time. Hollins. Smith able to get it, and Austin Hollins picks up his second.
Substitution for the Gophers, 24, Joey King.
These kind of fouls obviously allow Minnesota to extend out their pressure. We went back and we were looking at it. It's actually 5 turnovers in the last 5 possessions for Ohio State. They had 3 in the first half total.
It was Minnesota who struggled with the turnovers in the first half, and then Ohio State on that stretch of 5 straight possessions of it going the other way. And Ross nails the 3 ball.
A simple play for Aaron Kraft. You come off the screen, you dribble into the teeth of the defense, 2 go with you. You know your teammate is wide open. Set him up and allow him to knock it down.
Also 16. Had a career high 25 at Purdue earlier. Dre Hollins lost the handle for a moment and got challenged on the inside by Ross, who denied him.
Well, Dre's got to go up with his left. He went up with his right, and he spoon-fed it for Ross.
Off balance, and it rolls off the rim. Nice little hesitation move by Hollins, but once again, Williams coming in with the block. A good night here at the Old Barn, sitting atop 14,625, way up there in Minneapolis. 9, but it's a great feeling when you walk in this venerable arena every time we come here to Minnesota. 1-point game. Daquan McNeil gives way to Joey King. Over to Malik Smith. Shot clock under 10. Here's McNeil on the drive. And that runner couldn't go, but King's there with the rebound. Putback won't go. Eliason fighting for it. And then Ross gets it to head to Aaron Kraft. Other end, Ross. Hustle on one end, 3 on the other.
19 for Ross. 3 of 4 from behind the arc. He has been efficient and quiet, but just businesslike once again.
And he gives the Buckeyes a 2-point lead.
That was a sensational play, though.
Eliason, as he rolled to the basket, will stay with Minnesota.
Well, Ross with the slap away from Eliason, but how about the previous possession?
Remember we told you about the 4-foot gap down to broadcast pit row there?
He used over the 4-foot gap. Comes back in bounds, gets himself set, and knocks it down, Tess.
As he was tiptoeing the media desk there at the edge of this raised floor. He has scored the last 8 for Ohio State. LaQuinton Ross.
He had 22 against Iowa. Struggled a little bit against Michigan State. 1 of 7, only 5 points.
And DeAndre Matthew taking advantage of the open space.
Now this is going to be a foul against Oceanix. Off ball, he got tangled up with Aaron Kraft. The basket will count, but the foul is against Oceanix. And we're going to freeze it for you. As the shot goes up, freeze it, folks. I'm going to watch. This is what you need to watch. That action between those two. Oceanix is actually going to wrap Aaron Kraft around the neck. And that's good enough to draw the foul. Aaron Kraft just throws both hands up.
Basket by Matthew does count there, so we're tied up at 38. And now on the other end, it's Ross getting tangled up with Oceanix. And Patino, a little upset, fired up and teed up.
Oh, and we got stuff being thrown on the floor here, too.
We got ice and cups being thrown from that student section, the barnyard, to our right.
Well, you can't do that. I mean, there's no place in the game for that. Look, you can disagree with the call. You can be upset about the technical foul. First of all, Coach Patino knew what he was doing. He disagreed with the call, and that's fine. He went after it. He got himself the tee. He wanted the tee. He took the jacket. He threw it.
Now that's what happened with Oceanix and Ross as they came down the court.
They get tied up in the center of the screen. And Ross puts both hands up right in Oceanic's chest. Coach Patino doesn't like it. He throws the jacket, and he's talking the entire time, and that was good enough to get him the technical foul. Now, the bigger concern is you can't have people throwing things on the floor in a basketball game.
Our officials, Lamont Simpson, John Gaffney, and Donnie Epley are going to look at that shove. As Ross sent Oceanics to the floor here.
Well, and the fact that they called that a double foul, they're tied up, but clearly Ross is the one that puts both hands in the upper portion of the chest and pushes off to create it. Again, some sort of announcement has to be made about throwing stuff on the floor, though. You throw a drink on the floor, you've got multiple people out on the floor right now trying to clean it up and dry it off.
A large cup filled with ice came flying in moments after Richard Pitino was teed up. So they clean that up as the officials are reviewing the contact between Ross and Oceanics. Hotly contested game here in the barn.
Well, it's Ross that comes in. Oceanics kind of tries to block him with a forearm, and then a lot of contact.
So they're going to call a double foul and then assess the technical after reviewing the scenario we just laid out for you there.
So nothing changes from the original call on the court. Now, it's key to note, though, when you call a double foul in that situation, you can't take a foul away. So the double foul is going to stand. The only thing that they could have done in that situation is try to see if they wanted to assess a flagrant one or a non-basketball contact foul against LaQuinton Ross.
Right.
They chose not to do that.
After looking at the review of the contact there, but Ross will be shooting. Pitino assessed the technical.
And the carryover for Oceanics, too. You look at Oceanics, who just got tangled up with Aaron Kraft and had his arms draped over his shoulders, to then that play. And he's got to make sure that he plays with composure.
So Buckeyes will inbound here. Their possession up by 1.
For Oceanics, his second personal. For Ross, his first.
Thad Matta takes that seat on the raised floor. Of course, with this court surface, only the head coach is allowed on the floor.
Good job rotating on the back line of the defense. They were looking for Thompson to sneak in as he was cutting to the opposite side for maybe that lob play that we've already seen. Twice they've attempted that in this game.
Working that baseline. Now he comes around and Kraft gets it over to Ross. Shot fake up. And he can't connect there. Matthew now. Here's Hollins coming around. And he lost it. And chasing it down was Smith.
I look for Matthew to try to get him to turn the corner. He's been very quiet since the early stages of this game.
There's Walker working on the inside that time against McDonald. That's McDonald's first.
13.
A lot of times when you start to feel the game kind of get a little tense and you have some physical altercations, some controversial type calls, it starts to be called a little bit tighter. Both teams need to understand that. And the officials, well, they got to make sure that they don't call something just because they feel the moment.
Here's Walker now. And he's able to wrap around and get it to drop. Plus the foul. Mo Walker.
What a beautiful pass by Matthew. I mean, that was threaded to get it down, and then great hands by Walker, the big fella, able to finish. The bench likes it in a big moment, responding, being down one after the double foul and the technical on the head coach. Mo Walker gets himself to the free throw line. And what a difference a year makes for Mo Walker.
He suffered a season-ending knee injury back in 2010. Redshirted that year. Went about a year and a half without playing competitive basketball. Dropped weight, went down from 300 pounds down to playing now at 250 on that 6'10" frame. Smith. How about the fall that time? As Loving and then Ross. Nothing would drop for the Buckeyes though. Matthew leaves it for Smith, and now they'll reset. A 1-point lead for Minnesota, under 12 to play. Back inside the Walker, and back to the tin, and the strike. How about that?
The barn is alive, and the interior presence has been the key to the offense. Eliason in the first half. It's Walker in back-to-back possessions. He'll be at the free throw line when we return. So close to winning up at Michigan State. An opportunity on your home floor to try to knock off a ranked opponent and gain some momentum.
Big Mo Walker at the line as Ross picked up his third. Of course, Ross with 20 points, scoring Ohio State's last 9.
Well, and how important is that? LeQuentin Ross is shooting 57% from the field. The rest of the Buckeyes in this game are 6 of 22, 27%. He needs some help down the stretch here on the road.
And Mo Walker has now scored the last 5 for Minnesota. 4-point lead for the Gophers. You can see there they've lost the last 6 straight to Ohio State. And a block call that time as Thompson made the move. Reminder, Saturday primetime, number 18 Louisville taking on the UConn Huskies. Saturday primetime is presented by DirecTV at 9 on ESPN.
Shabazz Napier is so dynamic for UConn, leading them in every major statistical category right now.
Mo Walker with 3 fouls now. Another turnover, and here comes Matthew. And the little guy with the finger rolls, he's done consistently. 12 points for DeAndre Matthew. Kraft now almost lost his balance as they reset back up top. Mark Loving. And Matthew on the long rebound. A 6-point margin now for the home team. Minnesota on a 9-1 run. Walker backing down, now kicks it out to Hollins.
That was good post defense by the freshman, Loving.
Six remains on the shot clock here.
Steal so important for Minnesota. Watch the steal. And as this ball gets converted in the offensive end of the floor, we're going to freeze it. Keep rolling it out, guys. Roll it out. Let me see it. Freeze it right here. This is where players usually attack. Instead, he chooses the inside. Attack the defensive player, and you're going to easily finish.
Shot clock down to 4. And that was desperation, but the long rebound out to Dre Hollins. And a fresh shot clock as we will go under 10 minutes here at the barn. Here's Walker again. Stripped away that time.
Great job by Thompson.
And from behind, it's Walker on the other end. Matthew trying to split him. And he draws the foul. So how about the big man on the other end getting his hands involved?
Make a mistake. You're not strong enough with the ball underneath. You don't put your head down. You don't sulk. You just get back and you try to make a hustle play, and he gets one right there. What a job by the big fella. You mentioned it, 290 pounds, 300 pounds a year ago, now down to 250. He knew he had to lose weight to become more agile and have the opportunity to play in Coach Pitino's system.
Making a hustle play here at a critical juncture. As he gets a nice reception here at Williams Arena. Largest lead of the night for Minnesota. Kraft trying to stay in control, and he does, coast to coast for Aaron Kraft.
If you extend out pressure at times, you're going to give up layups. And that time, Aaron Kraft felt the pressure right away, didn't slow down, instead shifted into another gear and attacked.
Eliason now in the post. As that was sloppy and fighting for it, he comes up with it, calling for the timeout.
And Thad Matta is almost across the half-court line. He is ultra upset. Aaron Kraft, though, in the open floor, he is so good at attacking the paint. And an excellent job here, feeling the pressure, riding the defense, and then not allowing it to knock him off the course, and attacks the shot blocker. Eliason was too deep that time and did not move his feet laterally to cut Aaron Kraft off.
A career of Aaron Kraft, 109 wins at Ohio State, 2 Big Ten titles, and really, he's what being a student athlete at the highest level is all about.
Well, what did Richard Pitino tell us? You know, he was down in Florida the same time Tim Tebow was down there. And he said, you know, to me, Aaron Kraft is what Tim Tebow was to Florida. You know, so often, this is what Coach Pitino was telling us, so often we are concerned with what kind of pro they're going to be.
How they project at the next level.
How about we just appreciate what they do for their school and how hard they compete and the plays that they make. He said every coach in the country hates playing Aaron Kraft, but every coach in the country would want Aaron Kraft on their team.
And much like Tim Tebow, a humanitarian, he spent time in Haiti this past summer with charitable efforts. Austin Hollins unable to get that to go. Now the push on the other end. And Smith just going in and fouling Q Ross that time. Q Ross working on a big night, as he has 20 already for the Buckeyes.
And 3 fouls on Malik Smith. Well, Quentin Ross started the season extremely slow. First 5 games, shot 23% from the floor. Then started to gain some momentum. And a big part of that, when we spoke with Thad Matta, he reiterated to us, is starting to feel more comfortable in who he is and how he has to play to be successful. And also his teammates understanding the different roles from what they had a year ago.
He has 15-plus points, and now 10 of his last 13 games does Ross. Ray Hollins working against Kraft. And Austin Hollins drawing the whistle that time. And it'll be 1-1.
Little opportunity again. This becomes a free throw shooting contest. Advantage Minnesota. They shoot as a team 76% from the foul line.
And that leads the Big Ten in free throw percentage. And he gets his own rebound. And gets the 2 anyway. Austin Hollins. First 2 points of the night for Austin. Back to a 6-point lead for Minnesota. Here's Ross now, out to Mark Loving as he weaves his way through and then turns it over.
And that started with his footwork. He was off balance. Extended a little too far, Tess, and when you don't have your feet underneath you, really limited opportunities that time.
Eliason got his own rebound, and then it went into the hands of Sam Thompson. Now here comes Scott.
A good job probing the defense, but a nice job by Minnesota reacting to it.
Thompson. And a loose ball back to Scott. Here's Kraft. And Hollins comes up with it. They had their chances, but it stays a 6-point game. Shot clock at 6. Austin Hollins. This will be 1 second remaining. Minnesota trying to bring home an upset when we return to the barn.
Coach Pitino was very adamant. He loves this building. What this program needs is state-of-the-art practice facilities.
Just a second on the shot clock as it goes off the side of the backboard. That was actually an Ohio State win back in 1928 when they opened up this grand historic palace of Midwest hoops here, the barn.
Well, offensively, you need to find somebody besides LaQuinton Ross. The rest of the team, 26% shooting from the floor.
Here is Ross again. Eliason with yet another rebound. That was double-double for Eliason tonight.
That was a difficult shot. The catch with a 6'11" frame and that long reach right in front of you.
Kraft saving it. Thompson now, as he can get up and get it down, and he will head to the line.
A great finish underneath by Thompson. That possession wouldn't have even taken place, though, if it wasn't for the hustle of Aaron Kraft. Excellent job. Defensively active hands, saves it, finds his teammate, and then the push ahead and the attack. Nice job by Thompson.
And Thompson, he's a springboard leaper. Amazing ability to get up, very athletic. As he finishes off the three-point play. And we got ourselves a 3-point game.
Well, if he's envious of that and watching Steph Curry and Kevin Durant, he's going to be thinking, man, I wish I could shoot 30 times a game.
I'm going to change that clock to 5:43 remaining from 5:20. So they put 5:43 after reviewing at the officials' score table.
And the reason why was because the ball rolled off the floor. And when I say off the floor, that means literally leaving the floor and dropping down 4 feet.
Yes, at the race floor of the barn. 3-point lead for the Gophers. Here's Hollins. Tries to get it into Eliason, working against the freshman, Mark Loving.
Keep going there. Absolutely. That is such a size advantage.
6'11" junior against the 6'7" freshman. There's the whistle on the inside as Ross came through.
And that one was going to be called on the pass, but at the opposite end of the floor. I mean, just a mismatch. Mark Loving, 6'7", going against 6'11". It's freshman versus upperclassmen. And Eliason able to finish.
Eliason 12 points, 10 rebounds, just picked up his second foul.
And you mentioned this in the first half. I completely agreed with what you said, Tess. Maybe not one player benefited more from the coaching change than Eliason.
You can see the confidence and how he's developed. One of the more improved players in the Big Ten. Under 5 to play. 5-point lead for Minnesota against number 11 Ohio State. And on the steal there, Ross was fouled.
Well, you have to be stronger with the basketball. I mean, it's just, there's no excuse that Joey King will catch the ball and just expose it away from his body, allowing LaQuinton Ross to get the steal, and then maybe a smart foul from the standpoint of you're not going to give up a guaranteed two, but you have to be better.
Just to create that opportunity for Ohio State.
Joey, the transfer from Drake, able to play right away. Local kid who came back here, got the NCAA waiver because he's dealing with a family illness back here in this area. In a game like this, though, you've got to be strong with the basketball. We are under 5 minutes to play. And things kind of tighten up a little bit. After that entry pass down low with Loving on Eliason, they brought Williams back into the game to defend him.
Now Eliason matched up with a fellow 6'11" counterpart. Oceanics now. Back to 6 for Richard Pitino's team.
He made that shot because 2 reasons. 1, he was aggressive, and 2, he had a great base underneath him. His feet were set and locked to the floor.
Ross stripped away Malik Smith. And it is getting loud here at Williams Arena. Go the other way. 3.5 to play.
Well, the ability to score in the paint has been key. We've seen Mo Walker, we've seen Eliason do it, and now Oceanics with a good solid base, able to finish underneath. 6-point lead. Dunks. They had 2 missed dunks in the first half. And in a tight game, you maybe don't think about it. You take it for granted in the first half, but you know down the stretch, these are baskets that matter. And in fact, the differential in the paint has been so clear in this game. It's not just the point differential, which is plus 16 Minnesota. It's the field goal percentage. 64% inside the paint for Minnesota, 42% inside the paint shooting for Ohio State.
And in this second half, Ohio State only 5 made field goals and 9 turnovers to frame against that. Here's Ross. That's been his spot. And the rebound goes to Matthew as Ross couldn't get it to go. Sitting on 22 points. Matthew goes baseline. Hollins for 3. Oh, boy. Gophers rolling. Another turnover. Uncle Mo is at the barn. Gophers with momentum. Now the Buckeyes with a turnover. Just throwing it up that time. No whistle as Scott came in. And they're going to settle this thing down with 2 minutes to play and an 11-point lead.
A good job by Coach Richard Pitino to call the timeout. Hashtag my home court. This home court is rocking right now for Minnesota.
Lock it up, Farnham.
Well, defense leading to offense, opportunities to score.
What a tough conference this is to win on the road. Ohio State to 2 straight losses. Michigan State, Iowa. Now they come here to Williams Arena and get this thrown right at them. And they're going to say that Matthew traveled.
Well, I think it's fair to say, partner, that we have seen Ohio State in this very similar position earlier this season.
Oh, yes.
It was at Madison Square Garden.
What a comeback that was back in December. The Australian Open starting over on ESPN3, and we get full coverage after we finish things up.
Can they pull the rabbit out of the hat once again?
Kraft with the bounce pass to Williams. And he draws the foul.
Williams is 67% free throw shooter. Aaron Kraft completely broke down the defense and then fed the big fella.
Can't connect on the second, so it stays a 10-point lead. And now Hollins fouled. Smith came in on him there, and we'll go to the line on the other end.
You don't want to send Hollins to the free throw line. It's a 72%er. He is 0 for 1 tonight.
As a team, they're the best in the league from the line.
Well, Coach Pitino wants his guys to back up. It's about grinding it out and making sure you're getting the stop in the half-court set. You don't want to overextend and give up an easy one.
Kraft will take the 3. And Eliason will get yet another rebound. That is 13 rebounds for Elliot Eliason. As Minnesota is trying to cap a signature night here on their home court.
Quentin Ross with a phenomenal effort of 22 points. But the rest of his teammates around him haven't been able to provide the offense necessary to get this win on the road. And I think that's what my concern would be for Ohio State, and we're going to see them next week, partner, in Columbus.
Kraft nails the 3 this time. This Ohio State team was number 3 in the country before they played Michigan State. And we talked to Thad Matta about this Big Ten. As you look at the standings there, Ohio State came in 2-2. Remember, they ran their record to 15-0. Came back against Michigan State, lost that game, lost to a good Iowa team. We said, are there issues here? Are there problems? People are saying the sky is falling back in Columbus. Yeah, look what's going on here. There's a lot to question, but obviously in this league, you never know.
The offense is what's to question right now for Ohio State. They need somebody to support LaQuinton Ross. They need another secondary and even a third scoring option on a consistent basis. And they haven't had that for a majority of the season. They've relied on their defense, which has been highly successful. But the story tonight is about Minnesota. I mean, Minnesota doing an excellent job stepping up, and you look at the upcoming schedule, opportunities to maybe pick up some wins, but Nebraska's an improving team. We saw them take Michigan down to the wire last week. Illinois and Coach Gross, they're playing really solid defense this year. Levante Rice, one of the most impactful transfers in all of college basketball.
There's no off night in the Big Ten. From 15-0 to number 3 to a night like this.
For Richard Pitino, though, developing this program, building up a sense of identity of who they are, how they want to play, coming so close on the road to win at Michigan State, to get another opportunity to play a ranked opponent, this time on your home floor. And boy, his team has come out and performed, especially after that shaky start, with 8 turnovers in the first 8 minutes of this game.
And you talk about playing ranked opponents. Well, this is the stretch, and we were describing it as game 2 of a very challenging 4-game stretch of ranked Big Ten opponents for Minnesota. They had the overtime loss against Michigan State, tonight against Ohio State, at Iowa, home against Wisconsin. So they need to be playing their best ball. Kraft just desperately trying. And Matthew will bring it back out here. As Ohio State is going to head to 3 straight losses, Sean.
Brad Mile told him not to foul. So the fouling is done in the game. Minnesota's going to get out of here with the victory and improve to 3-2 in the Big Ten.
Smith put one in here in the final 16 seconds. But for Ohio State, their first 3-game losing streak since February 2009. And for Minnesota, their first win over a ranked team this season. Good second-half surge for Richard Pitino's Gophers.
What a performance by Minnesota. Eliason so big underneath the hoop all night long. Did an excellent job controlling the tempo of this game and executing. You look at this Ohio State team, they had an 18-game win streak against unranked opponents in the Big Ten. That falls tonight as well.
Eliason had 12 points and 13 rebounds. Minnesota topples number 11, 63-53. The Australian Open 2014 presented by Franklin Templeton Investments. Coming up next, for Sean Farnham, I'm Joe Tessitore. Enjoy the rest of your night.